Hello, hello. All right, so here is your past life spread. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at where you were, what you did with the majority of your time there, an important day with relationships and feelings involved, another important day with relationships and feelings, the death over here, and lesson learned. And we'll get hints of time throughout, okay? So all I'm going to do is relay to you the images and impressions that are coming through, and your job is going to be to try to make connections where you can based off of what comes through here and your current life. And I'll try to help however I can. Just keep in mind, there's a couple of ways to make connections. There is direct and opposite. Direct connections is when you can directly connect with or resonate with the information coming through. An opposite connection is the kind of thing where we might see someone die in a fire in another life and they come back and they're deathly afraid of flames, you know, like that kind of thing. So just be open-minded or mindful when it comes to making connections in different ways. Now, it is for you to connect with, but don't force anything. So anything you might not connect with, you just want to tuck in the back of your mind for a later time, because sometimes, or a lot of times, things come up in the days, weeks, months, year later where it'll click, and then you'll be like, oh, that's what she was talking about, that kind of thing. So just keep that in mind. You might want to grab a notebook and pen because a lot of stuff tends to come through. And let's go ahead and begin. So first of all, what is coming through? It feels like during the shuffling, I wanted to tell you the imagery was this really long white picket fence, really long, not just on not just like a house, you know, one house on a little plot, very long, like an entire road, a white picket fence and a pathway kind of thing, not even a road to drive on, but a pathway that you would walk along, almost like it feels like it's a walking along it if you were going into town, and that might take a while, that kind of thing. And that was coming through shuffling, so it may or may not connect here. But what I do want to mention here is that it feels like we're looking at a male aspect. So this, gender doesn't matter in other lives, we're all kinds of things. This feels like it's a man that we're looking at, male. And so you might connect, well, first of all, connect however you can with a white picket fence, even though it might be coming through here later on. But it's the idea of like a dirt road versus a driving road. The idea of walking into town, however you might connect with that. But we want to go more right here to the male aspect. So in your current life, do you find that you have masculine traits or are tuned into your masculine energy more so than feminine energy, or just very aware of the masculine energy? And or did you grow up or still are a tomboy kind of thing? So this is the kind of thing we see when we see male energy coming through right away. This particular person, what they're doing is they're kind of plopping me down into his young adulthood instead of childhood or anything like that. It feels like we're looking at someone distinctly having to do with piloting a plane, and the plane is not commercial. It feels like a smaller kind of plane, but yet something about going from like using it not just for transport of himself but other things. And then it's also switching back and forth between this small plane and a helicopter. And it feels like almost like he started on a small plane and might be at this point getting into the helicopter thing. It's something about airlifting. So it could be he's transporting people or resources. So you might be connecting with this in a couple of ways. One, it could be directly that maybe you've wanted to learn how to fly a plane, or you love just airplanes in general, but the smaller kind, not commercial. You might love flying, you might love travel. You might have considered getting a license to fly. You may have a license to fly. However, flying it would be recreational, but this has purpose to it. But for you, it may be recreational. Could be you were in the Air Force. Could be that you like the idea of living or doing business by an air base or an air, what's it called? Oh my gosh, an airport. Oh my God. Or an airport, just because of the sound, the aesthetic, being there, that kind of thing, just liking the plane thing. Now, the other connection you can, and if you don't, that's totally fine. In fact, the opposite connection would be if you have a fear of heights or a fear of flying. That's what the opposite kind of thing would be. But this also speaks about a transition from one thing to another that's similar, but almost like, okay, I started out with basics, now let's go more advanced. So this could be coming up to speak to you in the case that you feel like you're ready to take a next step in something that you've already started out with, right? Like say you're proficient in a skill set or a hobby or something like that, and you want to do something like, okay, I want to deepen my skill set. Maybe I'll try to work as an apprentice under a master, or maybe I will, what is it? It's more like I'm so good at this hobby, I'm so good at it and proficient, I can see it turning into a business, or you know what I mean? So where you're starting with one thing and you're just kind of leveling up in the way of expanding your knowledge from basic knowledge to more advanced knowledge and whatever that might entail. Now, this can also be a message that you are proficient enough at whatever it is you may be focusing on or enjoying it could be a hobby, it could be a business, whatever it is, that this might be a message for you that you're ready to deepen that or take it to the next level. In the case that you feel like you're not, or that you're scared to, or that you feel unqualified or inadequate or whatever it might be, this could be like the imposter syndrome, where you feel like I'm not good enough to, I haven't been doing this long enough. Everyone else usually takes 5 years and here I am 1 year in and I'm already proficient. Is this long, like doubting yourself essentially. So if you have self-doubt in something, this would be a message that you have the capability to go ahead and move forward and advance, and make sure that you're just focusing on your own development and not comparing yourself. So just in case you have something where you are comparing yourself, it could be competition, competing, kind of comparing, or it could just be comparing, like comparing yourself might be something you do in your life to limit yourself. Or if you've noticed looking back, do you compare and then find yourself, like if you were making plans and then you compare, you stop making plans, or again, you limit yourself, make yourself smaller, or not take a step. If that connects in any way, please allow this to be the message that is like, stop doing that, stop doubting yourself, and move forward. And I almost wanted to say move forward already. So I don't know what that might connect with you, but please make the connection. If something is coming to mind while I'm talking about this, it's probably that. That's your intuition usually like telling you like what's up. So if nothing comes to mind, that's fine too. And if you don't connect, tuck in the back of your mind for a later time, because this feels like it would be very relevant at some point. So keep that in mind. But these are ways we can be making connections. So where we're going, this is the Americas card, and the Americas card encompasses North, Central, and South America. This feels like this person is constantly on the go. And it feels like, as we're looking at this, it feels more South America, and it almost feels like it's either from a very like advanced, civilized, modern city, wherever we're looking in time here for this time period, it would be a more modern city to them, and it feels like that would be the hub, and that your aspect, this person, you, airlift supplies to more remote places, if that makes sense. So it's almost like I want to, and I keep, it almost feels like it's like north, like I almost want to say like the capital of Brazil, like where there is just a big population and a lot of resources. It feels like the hub, like where it, and probably it's either where you're from or where you have found yourself headquartered. And this almost has the feeling of like a Peace Corps kind of thing, or like is there something called a medic corps? That's coming through too, as like a medic corps. Go ahead and Google medic corps and see what that might be, if there is anything, and if it is in South America, because this does feel like a more modern life, which, by the way, just based on your age, if we're looking at a time where you're already alive in this timeline, because this feels more modern, we are looking then at a parallel life, which time is an illusion to everyone but humans. So that's how we can get parallel lives coming through at times. But if I were to give this like a timeline, this feels like it would be the 60s or 70s. That's what this feels like. And so yes, so any connection you can have to South America, it would particularly either be if you've ever been drawn to, pulled to, on a vacation, or have been to Brazil, and or it's the idea of being pulled to the aesthetic, the culture, the music, the people, the land, the history, that kind of thing. If that's ever intrigued you, pulled you for Brazil, and or the idea of remote, smaller village/towns in South America. And I know that's general, but it's a specific feel where it's like if you've ever wanted to visit those small historic places, like that were linked, maybe almost like linked to ancient native culture kind of thing, or indigenous cultures here. If you've ever, for some reason, found that interesting, the idea of visiting these places, it's like historic sites almost, but it feels like these would still be small towns still alive today, not like places where the people are no longer there kind of thing. Sorry, just bear with me. That would be a connection as well, because this person, it feels like there is a constant coming and going and providing supplies and resources to these people. And I almost want to say like toothbrushes, like specifically something about toothbrushes. So if you have any connection with toothbrushes, no, but that would be, these would be connections you could be making. Now, if you've never visited or considered Brazil or remote South American towns, and this feels like we're looking like along, like if you were to look at Brazil, it feels like the pathway of the air, like the air paths that we're looking at go straight down. So it's not like over to the west in South America. It would be like, it'd be east and like south, like going down and up. So like southeast and then back to Brazil or something like that. So you also might want to look and see if there's some kind of like Peace Corps or Medic Corps kind of hub thing in Brazil or North. It could also just be North South America. North South America. Okay. All right. That's interesting. So, what else? Okay. So then we want to go to what you do with the majority of your time, and so we have the healer card, and I feel like that really does fit in with the idea of a Peace Corps, Medic Corps kind of vibe I'm getting here, where it's someone, even though it feels like this aspect of you is not directly doing the healing in a sense where, like, let's say he delivers the toothbrushes, he's not the dentist, or he's not the one showing them how to use it, but he's the deliverer. And I feel like this is also for you to understand how a definition can be broadened in so many ways, like a healer. Like when we think of a healer, we're thinking of the person who's actually doing the healing. We don't consider how that person got the tools. And it's like the person who's providing the tools to get the healing done that's needed is also part healer as well, but in their own way. So just because you are a pilot delivering the stuff, it doesn't make you any less valuable in the healing process of the people that are utilizing the tools, because without you, they wouldn't be able to use it. So I almost want to say that how you might connect with that is if you in your current life don't give yourself enough credit or any credit for things that you think are not like worth celebrating in yourself. Like this, like almost like, it's kind of like being a mom, you know, like just waking the kids up every day. It's just to mothers, it's part of your routine. Okay. But you know, if you don't wake them up at that time, they're not going to get into the routine of living their daily life. Like, it's very important. And we just brush off these like very mediocre things that feel natural or like you should be doing them. We brush them off and we don't celebrate, just like, hey, I'm a good mom. I wake up my kids every day at the right time. Like, why not? You know what I mean? I am giving that example because of how mediocre that is. Like, just how, like, bland of an example that is. The point is, it's so bland. That's the point. Because it feels like there's something about you not celebrating yourself enough, and a message of making sure that you do. And if you can't seem to find a place to start, then you need to start with the most basic mediocre thing, which is like if you make coffee in the morning and it feels good, it's like, good job, you made coffee and you gave yourself a boost, and that's nice. You know, like that kind of thing. It's almost like it's a more optimistic perspective of yourself. And I feel like it's almost like being your best friend, almost like that kind of thing. Like, good job, you did good today. Like, you got up and you did what you're supposed to do, and you know what I mean? Or like, even if you take a rest day, good job, you're taking a self-care day, well done. You know, like that kind of thing is like, try to work in as much like positive self-talk slash celebratory slash giving yourself credit kind of vibes for yourself. Like, give that to yourself. And, you know, like, and if there's no one else to do that, it's like you've got to do that for yourself. Even if there are other people to do that for yourself. That's what this feels like here, is like almost like the feeling that he's happy with what this aspect is happy with what he's doing, but he doesn't, there's something about him not taking credit for like really what he's doing, because also he enjoys it. So don't get trapped in that thing where, well, I love doing this, so it's not worth whatever. Like, it's almost like if you're an artist and you create art, you would, and it's easy to make for you, it comes naturally, easy, and you make it quickly, but it's so valuable to other people, and then you'll just sell it for pennies on the dollar. I'm not saying take advantage of people, but it's not giving yourself the value or worth by selling the art for a higher cost, because it's in demand and it is valuable and it is beautiful, and it's like you're just like seeing things almost like from a discredited viewpoint where other people see it as more valuable as well, even if you don't hear it from other people. So it's, again, it's just like a message of making sure you're giving yourself credit and that you are doing your best to see your value where you might not be seeing it. And this goes towards self-worth, self-value, that kind of thing. I almost want to say it's the idea too of if you're working a job and you know that you are not being paid as much as, let's say, a coworker, but you do as much or more, this would be a message of you either, you know, ask for your value's worth or go. Like that kind of thing. So if you find yourself in a situation like that, it would be because it's being presented to you not to piss you off, but as an opportunity for you to kind of stand up for yourself and your value. And also it will, if it's not given to you, like in the promotion sense of a job, it's also an opportunity for you to see where you're not being valued, so you can cut cords or ties with that environment or those people and go towards something where you are being shown that you are valuable and wanted and encouraged and being given everything you deserve in that sense. This could be, again, a job, a relationship, situation, whatever it might be. All right? Okay, so keep making connections where you can with these. And I mean, it also, the toothbrush thing comes in. I don't know, maybe you work for a dentist, maybe you aren't a dentist. Maybe you're thinking of going to dental school. Maybe you need to brush your teeth more. I don't know, but make connections where you can with the toothbrushes, okay? This is also speaking of someone, though, who is very resourceful. So don't ever doubt that you have the resources you need within you to accomplish what you want to do, okay? You just have to, like, see your value. So keep making connections. We're going to go to the first important day. So this is the Conquered, They Have Come, and Welcome card. We're looking at either allies or enemies coming into a territory. This is the Family card for the relationships, and this is the Horror card for the feelings. So what I feel like is happening on this day, it feels like it's a big important day because it feels like you have either you're just getting there and you get word, or you're leaving and you get word that whatever place you dropped off supplies to, or that you are usually, like, that's on your route, it feels like there's something where you have to, there's something that happens where there are, like, some kind of, like, for lack of better words, gangs that kind of roam through kind of thing. And it feels like they came in and disrupted the place, maybe killed people, maybe stole everything. It's almost like, it feels like these people are linked to drugs, like drug trafficking, dealing kind of thing. And it feels like they go through and maybe they even take people or kids or something like that. And it feels like you either touch down right after. Yeah, now that we're talking, okay. So it's like, so what they're showing me is like you getting word, like through the microphone in the, you know, someone's talking to you and they're saying, it's not good, and it's like you circle for as long as your gas will allow you to, and then you touch down, and it feels like you touch down once everything is done and you're seeing the after effects of a sense of a brutality. And where the family card comes in is it feels like you're seeing that families were torn apart. So it feels like we're looking at people almost, I want to say, being taken from the family, possibly. I keep getting visions of like young boys kind of thing, like almost like recruited kind of deal. You might want to go ahead and Google and see if this was a thing during this time. But it feels like recruited for something having to do with drugs, drug trafficking. So this is really devastating. Now, in your current life, you might be very triggered when it comes to children being taken from their families. You might get triggered when it comes to hearing about families being torn apart by unusual circumstances. Not like, you know, if a kid is in an abusive relationship and they take him out of an abusive relationship or abusive environment, that it's not that kind of thing. It's like a hit and run accident that kills one person in the family and there's like 2 survivors or vice versa. You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing where it's just so like unexpected and unforeseen circumstances and there's a tearing apart of a family. So that might trigger you. And this can be even when you watch movies, if you read it in books, if you just read a headline, you would be triggered emotionally. A devastation kind of thing. And if not, that's totally fine. But that's what's coming through here, and that's the kind of connections we could be making. This is also the idea of you being very protective and almost like it feels like the opposite effect of what happened here, where he had to stay afloat and out of danger, which was his job, and he couldn't. When he touched down, it's like he almost wished he could have like been there to help, knowing he couldn't have helped, but wished he could have. So this could be the kind of thing where you come back in your current life being someone who is overprotective, and maybe even you're someone who people consider to be in their business, or just want to like be updated on everything that as it's happening kind of thing. So and there's no judgment in that. It's just like that's where it would come from if you find yourself that way. If you just want to be kept abreast of everything and be involved. Just so like almost like a feeling like I just want to be there. Like I just want to be there and know it all, just so I'm like, you know, just in the case that I might be able to help in some way or come up with some kind of solution or point something out that no one else is seeing or that kind of thing. So this is also, if you're in your current life, if you're very observant and you, again, like to know all the facts, you like to learn a lot, like everything having to do like with the backstory of something. So if you're quizzical, if you're curious, that kind of personality. But overly, this is more about overprotect. Like this would come back as like someone who's very protective and like that kind of thing. So just keep that in mind in case that you click with that. Let's see what else is coming through. Child trafficking would trigger you. And I know it's like, who wouldn't be triggered by child trafficking? Like I know, but it would be like a hard trigger. We're looking at something that might even like physically bother you, make you sick kind of thing, sick to your stomach kind of thing. This could also be the kind of thing where you might find yourself involved in some way in wanting to help, whether you donate to a cause having to do with children or families, or the idea of like even being a guardian ad litem, helping with families that are, you know, in the legal system with issues, protecting the youth in particular, if that is what you've been called to at all. Like if you've ever been like, I want to be involved in some way. I mean, it could be like where you're just like, you teach children, but it can also be like camp counselor or the Boys and Girls Club of America, or, you know, something that would help kids, maybe even like disadvantaged kids. So if not, by the way, and you're in a place where you're like, I wonder what I should do, I feel like I need to have purpose, I want to like change jobs or just pick up a hobby or volunteer, look into family services and child, you know, youth services or whatever as an option. That might be it might make you feel very fulfilled, just FYI, in the case that you're ever considering that. And if not now, tuck it in the back of your mind for a later time, you know? So keep making connections with that, and we're gonna go to the next important day. Oh, and one more thing though, this would also potentially affect how you feel about creating a family. This guy, at least here, he feels like he's riding solo throughout his I want to say he's like solo and he's already in his 30s, and so it's like that kind of thing. It feels like he's so focused on work that in your current life, one, you might be someone who really focuses on their work, you really enjoy focusing on your work, that's your favorite thing, makes you feel good kind of thing, like over anything else, you know, priorities kind of thing. You prioritize work, or you're maybe even a workaholic. This can also be, though, how you feel about creating a family. If you've ever been back and forth about the idea of even wanting kids or wanting to create a family or even getting married, putting a family together. If you've ever had doubts or any point in your life or even now where you're just like, I don't want that, it would also stem from seeing like the horror of families being torn apart without any hope. You know what I mean? So that could be translated into a soul where it's like, having a family is like a hopeless cause because look what happens. That kind of thing. On the other hand, the opposite would be like, I want a family. I want to create a family. I want to keep them safe. I want to grow a beautiful family. I want us to be happy. I want to, you know, that kind of thing. Like wanting to piece back together what he saw fall apart here. That would be a kind of connection. So keep that in mind. Keep making connections. We're going to go to the next important day. This is the so long farewell until we meet again card. This is usually a card of leaving. People are leaving, moving out, or fleeing. And the relationship here is the soulmate card. And the soulmate card is not always romantic. The soulmate card is usually someone we come in to meet during our lifetime that can teach us many, many lessons, whether it's loving or unkind. You know, like they can be our frenemies, enemies too. It's just about meeting them to learn lessons. And it could be romantic, and it could be one for an entire lifetime kind of thing, or not. But we do have many soulmates that are not romantic, or, you know, even romantic. So just keep that in mind as far as how you might define soulmates. And then the feelings here is pride. So let's see what is happening here. So what they're showing here is this idea of like you here not committing to relationships even though you want to, or you are in love, or whatever it might be. There is some wall, block, or stopper that seeing this did to you. Like it damaged your view of coming into a committed partnership with someone because you see it as a here this guy sees it as promising safety, longevity, commitment, like promising, making these promises that after seeing this he knows you can't keep, because he knows that even all these families that were hurt, they made promises to each other, they made promises to their children, even unspoken promises that you are safe, you are at home, we'll watch over you, nothing bad will happen. And then those promises couldn't be kept. So it's something about seeing commitment as a promise that can't be kept because things are out of your control or out of his control. And as long as things are out of his control, he can't promise someone something that even if he doesn't say it, he knows that they'll expect. So this is, it feels like a day where he's actually seeing someone he truly loves and cares about and can see a life with. He still does not, he can't promise them, like, he can't be like, yes, let's get married, or yes, let's, you know, be together forever. And that's all this partner, I feel like, needs to hear, is just that he wants to be together forever. It's not like, it's a misunderstanding because this partner isn't like looking for him to promise her or make promises that it's like this partner realizes promises can't be, some promises can't be kept. It's kind of like promising, like, yes, I'll be alive forever. You know, when some parents say that to their kids, I'll be here forever, I'll be alive, you know, and it's like, no, like everyone dies, you know, so it's, here it feels like just a real shame almost, like that kind of feeling, like, oh, what a shame, like what a deep shame, because this partner is not unrealistic, and yet this aspect of you here still is like, you can't see it, like he doesn't believe that. Like this aspect is like, I know you think you're okay with this, but really you're going to expect more, and I can't promise you that. So again, we're looking at how you might connect in your current life. One, you might be someone that is weary when you hear promises being made. You might not like promises. Like you might almost like the idea of like when someone makes a promise, there's something about you that might see right through it. Not that they don't mean it, but that you're like, okay, I hear you, but realistically, you know, that kind of thing. So in your current life, you might be a realist, like very left brain, logical realist, not giving into fancy or whimsy kind of thing. The opposite would be if you are tapped into fantastical romantic notions that you didn't allow to play out here. That'd be an opposite connection if you find yourself very romantic in this life and enjoying that kind of thing. But this direct connection would be if you are wary of commitment, wary of forever, or hearing people talk about forever. If you are realistic in the sense of like, hey, people change, that kind of thing. Let's how about we promise each other to love each other as long as we feel it, like that kind of thing. So it's basically, we're looking at how do you connect with the theme of realism when it comes to love, relationships, or even friendships. Realism in the sense of longevity and expectation, So are you someone that has realistic expectations, or opposite would be if you came back and you have very high romantically, that ideal expectations of partners or friendships or this or that. Now, if you do, this would be a message for you to just take a look and see where, if in your life you've had disappointments with people disappointing you, if you look back and be realistic with any expectations you may have held to them to meet, and see if there are any. And if there are, then you can let that go. It's about understanding or being self-aware of where you might have placed expectations so that it doesn't happen again, and you can have really lovely, lasting relationships then when there are no expectations, or not unrealistic expectations, if that makes sense. Because of course you should expect to be treated with compassion and kindness, at least, like basic expectations, but we're looking at higher standard expectations. And this could be vice versa, where you could have experienced people placing high expectations on you. So we're looking at a theme of expectations when it comes to different forms of relationships, not just romantic. But this person here was a soulmate, where it could very well be they came back into your current life now to attempt this again. So this person would be someone that has the energy in your life. They would have the energy of being forgiving, level-headed, and realistic, not unreasonable, and grounded. And it might be the kind of thing where you are like looking at them and thinking like, are they really like this, like Zen, so to speak, or this grounded? And they are. But you might be looking for them, like you might be like, I don't believe it, kind of thing. But this could also be, this could be a grandparent. This could be a child. This could be a friend, there's no assigned thing to this person. It could be they came back to try romance with you again. And this would be someone where you feel like, I feel like it's almost like someone that you might think is like too good to be true, just because how easily you vibe together, that kind of thing. Now, if you haven't met this person yet, tuck in the back of your mind for a later time, because it's very likely that this energy could be coming into your life as soon as you create space for them. And that's just done when you cut out toxic energy or create boundaries against toxic people, if there are any in your life, that kind of thing. So just something to food for thought. If someone did come to mind as I'm talking about this person, that's the person. So don't like start dissecting it or anything like that. That would be the person. That's just your intuition telling you. And if not, again, tuck in the back of your mind for a later time. The proud card comes in because there's this feeling of you sticking to your guns and thinking of it as a good thing. And every choice and decision we make does put us on the right path, because it's our path that we just chose. But it's almost like this pride card is more ego based here. Like, I did the right thing. Yep, I did the right thing. Like, not questioning himself. Like, like, I know better. I know what's right. Like that kind of thing. Where in your current life, either one, direct connection is you think you know better, which everyone, like, your intuition will tell you what you need, yes, but know better in the egotistical sense, where it's like you might, if you have a thing where you like to be right, I know, who doesn't like to be right, but it's more like where you might, it's almost like if you have to be right at the cost of maybe not hurting someone's feelings, but maybe even like giving the cold shoulder until it's like acknowledged that you were right. Even if you are right, it's like having like being proud about being right, but in an egotistical sense. So that would be direct connection. And again, no judgment, nothing wrong with that, but just being aware of it might be helpful in the way of if you have any dissonance with people, like any relationships that aren't going so great right now, just do a little check-in to see if there might be some stubbornness involved. And again, the opposite could be if you're going through that. If you find yourself with stubborn people because of how you were here, you might come back to be kind of being on the other side of dealing with stubborn people who have to be right, or who can't see a different way, who are very kind of narrow-minded in their beliefs, usually based on what they know from their life, their own experience. So they've just kind of believe it that it has to be that way. So however you might connect with that kind of energy or personality is what feels like it's coming through here. But if we're looking at this, it would be in your current life that you are back to become more flexible and open about, I want to say, deepening relationships. Like deepening them in the way of being vulnerable, in that it may feel like you're making promises, and that's very scary, but it's like you don't have to make promises, just feels like it, which is a very vulnerable feeling and can be very uncomfortable. So if you find yourself going through that, just know it's to experience it in a way that you didn't experience it here. And it doesn't mean that anything bad is going to happen. It doesn't mean the other shoe is going to drop. Just in case you have that paranoia of the shoe is going to drop, this is too good kind of thing. You just have to be aware, stay self-aware, and like just take one day at a time, one step at a time kind of thing. No rush, go at your pace, and just feel it out. You know, it feels like this is about feeling things out, like feeling things in your current life that you did not allow yourself to feel in this life because of your experience. So just connect however you can with that, and we're going to go ahead and move to the Death card. So this is the Murder card, and this feels like you landed like in a bad spot at a bad time, and it feels like, again, something about drug people are coming up, and I feel like you were killed for your plane. Like you were killed for the vehicle and resources when you landed. Like either you landed at the wrong time, or you had to do an emergency landing somewhere, and it was a remote place, and it feels like you landed, it's almost like as if you were to land in the fields of a drug property, and they came and they just like they killed you because you were in the wrong place, the wrong time. So you might be how this can connect. One, by the way, if you are triggered when you hear about drug trafficking, that kind of thing, it would be the kind of thing where it's so strong here that it would be the kind of thing where you might come back in your current life and consider like being on the other side of the law to pursue drug people, if that makes sense. That's another connection that could come from this. Another thing would be if you have fear or paranoia about getting lost. If you are really worried about that and you don't know why, it might even cause a panic attack or something. So this could be the kind of thing that would be if you're someone that you're so scared of getting lost that you might not even like to drive alone to a new place. Okay, so that is another connection, and if not, that's totally fine. In fact, I hope not, but these would be connections. A small connection would be if you get fearful when you see a group of men and you're alone, which I know a lot of women do just in general, but if you do that, if you get fearful, you know, because it feels like there was a group that came out and just like no way to run, getting shot. How you feel about guns, you might be someone, either one, you don't like guns, or two, you might be very adamant about owning your own as like a self-protection measure because of this, because it feels like you didn't have like any sufficient weapon on you at the time. So you might be someone that's even like, you might be taking self-defense classes, or you might have been interested in taking self-defense or martial arts or something, even when you were younger, or, you know, like as a kid or now or whatever, if that's ever been on your mind or a desire to do. But this is about how you feel about carrying a weapon, essentially, for self-protection, or if you just don't like the idea, you know? So, yes. And however you can connect with that And we're going to go ahead and move to the lesson card. So this is the experience card. And I feel like this is tapping into both here and your current life with kind of like what we were just talking about feeling everything. It feels like you were meant to go through this life to kind of, it's almost like to have such a overwhelming experience here of like horror and disgust that you were meant to almost, I want to say, this sounds weird, but almost like it was in the plan for you to learn what it's like to shut down, like emotionally shut down, to learn what it's like to feel that way. And then coming back in your current life to learn what it's like to open up again, or open or reopen up, or open up, or be given certain themes that are similar to this that would make someone shut down, but you don't shut down this time. You see what I mean? So I feel like that's what we're here is about, just experiencing again the full gamut of the human experience, and understanding that if you are feeling like you are extreme in some ways, like if you are feeling emotions extreme in certain areas of life when it comes to certain things, such as being emotionally triggered by specific things, it would be because you're meant to feel what you weren't feeling in another time, or what you disallowed yourself to feel, which in itself is an experience. So that's why there's no judgment here, there's no right or wrong, it's all experience. So anyway, keep making connections where you can when it comes to this. And we touched on the timeline of it feeling like the 60s, 70s. So however you might connect to the culture and the things that were going on in the 60s and 70s, what you know about it, what you heard about it, and again, like even if you've lived it, this could be parallel. So however you might connect to the 60s or 70s. And yeah, so there is your past life. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're able to make some connections, and thanks for letting me read you.